All right, let's be honest. Oh my goodness. 2020, right? Like if you had to rate 2020 on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being holy moly, what did we just go through? And a 10 being, I got this. This is totally okay. Let's do 2020 all over again. What would you rate 2020 as? Would you rate it as a 1? Would you rate it as a 10? Would you say that it's around a 5? Like, yeah, we've been through some stuff, but it's totally okay. I can do this. I'm just curious if you had to give 2020 a rating or a score, what would you give it? Would you give it a 10? Would you give it a 1, a 7, a 5, an 8, a 6, a 4, whatever it is? I'd love to know. So just let me know right here what you would rate 2020. So here's the thing, guys. I know that 2020 has been a year. It has really presented quite a lot of obstacles, right? Brooklyn says a 2. I hear you, Brooklyn. Totally hear you, right? Many of us have dealt with a lot of obstacles. And when we think of 2020, we think of all the obstacles because honestly, that's what our brain is designed to do, is to point out all the things that are painful or dangerous to us. So Debbie's got like a 6, Joe's got an 8, one of our Calm the Chaos alumni. She could have definitely said this was a 0, but she's been working really hard with our framework this year. So now I know many of us think, oh my gosh, thank goodness 2020 is coming to an end. How many of you guys are super excited that 2020 is coming to an end and you just cannot wait until we turn that corner and we're in a new year? If that is you, just put that's me, can't wait in the and that way we know we're not alone, right? Many of us are already starting to think like we can see the end, right? It's like running a long marathon and we're like, okay, you see the end. I can see the end. We're in November. We're getting close to December. Like, we've got this. Like, Thanksgiving is next week here in the US. Like, we can end 2020 on a great note or not so great note. And then it's behind us, right? We start all over in 2021. Except for the thing is that I know going into 2020, we can't expect 2020 to be that much different. We can't expect 2020 to suddenly be a 10, right? Now, here's the thing is that we have to change the way that we see things, and we have to make different choices if we want 2021 to be different. And so what I want us to do is I want us to get committed. I want us to make a commitment together. So I'm putting together a 5-day series. I'm going to start tomorrow, and I'm going to be walking us through some of the biggest things that we've learned over the last year. Things that like how to parent during a pandemic, how to get your kids to listen when things are changing constantly, how to get out of overwhelm and exhaustion. We're going to talk about how to deal with all of those too much behaviors, like kids that are too sensitive or kids that are too hyperactive or too busy, too wild. We're also going to talk about the increase in aggression that you might be seeing in your own home. Because the thing that you can control, while you can't, and I see Christina saying it, while you can't control all the outside forces, you can control the chaos in your own home and the way that you show up. Now, some of us like to just think, okay, well, I'm going to make 2021 great, and I'm going to stay patient, and I'm going to stay calm, and we make these great New Year's resolutions. But I want to encourage you to do something a little different. I want to walk you through a 3-step process that we use with our family, with my kids, in our business. We use this all the time to help us really get clear on where we've been, focus on the opportunities that are in front of us so that we can make forward progress. So if you are in, go ahead and just put I'm in the comments. I love it. So Christina says, I'm giving it a 7. I've had more downtime and opportunities for self-love and care and healing. I'm not loving COVID-19, but grateful for the slowdown. Totally hear you. But it's not about the year, right? And then Christina says, I'm in. Debbie says lots of good things have happened, getting consistency and special time together, less appointments. The diet half of the year, first half of the year was a little rough. I hear you. I hear you. Now, many of you guys are heading back into shutdowns, or you're heading back into e-learning. You're headed back into those changes we saw in March. How many of you guys are dealing with that right now? If you can just put shutdown in the comments so I know that kind of where we're at and what we're dealing with. And then I want to walk you through a 3-step process where you can actually do this on your own. I've got a little doodle I'm going to pull up. I'm going to walk you through that 3-step process of reviewing your year, looking back on where we've been so that we can make forward progress. Because you have to see how far you've come to be able to see where you're going. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my doodle over here. All right, there we go. So here's our 2020. Now, we had a lot of things happening in 2020. So we already talked about some of the negative things that were happening, right? Our kids went to e-learning. We had a lot of political unrest here in the United States. Some other countries did as well. A lot of businesses were closing. Stores were closing. We were actually like our whole, neighborhoods and everything, cities and governments were closing down because of COVID. We had COVID. We've seen an increase in arguments and fighting and not listening and battles. And my guess is you have your own things that kind of pop up for you too. So I'm curious, what has kind of popped up for you that has been difficult? Is it the transition of going back and forth to school? Is it like, some of our coaching students who had a sudden change in their marriage? Or were you dealing with sickness? Were you dealing with a change of job? Were you dealing with a loss of income? Were you dealing with a sick family member? Are you an extrovert and you've been dealing with not being able to see as many people? Are your kids extroverts and they're really struggling with not having that connection? It's really important for us to take a look back and just acknowledge the things that happened. And the first thing that we want to do is we really want to acknowledge our expectations. So that's step one, is we want to look back on the year and we want to say, okay, what expectations did I have? So when you think about where you thought you were going to be in 2020, what you thought you were going to do in 2020, I want you to think through what were some of the expectations you had that weren't met. For me and for Calm the Chaos, we thought this was going to be a rinse, repeat year. We thought that this was going to be a year where we were going to be able to just take everything we've worked so hard for over the last 6 years and just rinse, repeat it. But instead, because of COVID, we had to actually rebuild our entire program and our entire business when we weren't planning on it. Another big expectation that we had this year is that my son and I were going to go to Kenya this summer, and we were going to help open up a school in Kenya, go visit again with Village Impact, and that trip was obviously canceled. We were supposed to go to the beach this summer, and we rented a house. We were going to bring the whole family, even extended family, and then a hurricane hit, and we weren't able to even go there, even though the house was still open and we would have social distanced while we were there. So there's a lot of things that we expected that we thought were going to happen, but they just didn't happen. And sometimes we like to push those to the side. We like to pretend those didn't happen. But guys, I got to tell you, it is incredibly important for your brain. It is incredibly important for your emotional stability, for you to be able to just say, you know what? This is what I expected, and it didn't go as planned. And you know what? Like, I'm just going to sit in that feeling. I'm going to really think about what that feels like, what that, how that affects me. And then once I'm able to do that, now I can release it. I can let it go, because now it's about moving forward, right? So I want you to just think, and I see some, Debbie says she thought she'd be working, but her kids actually needed her to be home. And that was really hard. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. And like expectations of like being sick, or you didn't expect to be sick. Sometimes we lose a loved one and we're not expecting that. So, what expectations did you have? Maybe you expected to have a special trip with your family. Maybe you expected to have a certain work at a certain place and that got shut down. Maybe you expected that your family was just going to like get along and this was going to be the year that you were super connected, but that didn't work. Now, the next step after you have established your expectations and you've gotten really clear, I would encourage you to draw something out like this. Super simple. Just draw out the things that have happened and what expectations happened. Now, I've left some blank. The reason I've left some blank is because so often we forget to do this next step. The next step is something that is so critical. What I love that Amanda Warren says we expected to go on a cruise and we weren't able to. I totally hear you. And so one of the things that we forget to do is when we take a look back, we often remember the painful things that happened. We remember all the things we didn't get to do. We remember all of the things that we should have done, could have done, would have done. And we really focus on that lack. But what I want you to do is I want you to just stretch your brain a little bit. And I want you to go back over the year, over 2020, and I want you to celebrate. And I know that that sounds like, wait a second, Dana, like 2020 is not something to celebrate. What are you talking about? Well, what I mean by this is I want you to look back and I want you to find the little things that you overcame. I want you to find things that you learned. I want you to find new ways that you communicated. How many of us learned a new skill this year because we were almost forced into it? How many of us stretched our ability to look at what's possible? How many of us connected more with our families? How many of us stepped outside of our comfort zone in 2020? How many of us actually started calling our family more so that we could stay connected with them because we couldn't physically connect with them? So what wins do you have to celebrate? So I want you to think back over 2020, and then I want you to fill out your circle with other things that happened. Maybe you were able to connect more, right? Maybe you were able to learn a new skill. Maybe you were able to communicate more and you found a community online. What else? So go ahead and post them in the comments too of like, what are some wins that you had? I love it. Learn more conscious parenting. My family was able to build a business. Yeah, some people don't even realize that that has happened for people. Friends that I know who are online have seen more opportunity during this time. Friends who had brick and mortar stores by coming online have able to reinvigorate their business, have been able to actually grow their business during a time where other people have had a lot of stress. I love that. CTC, right? So you found your community, your family, Desiree says. I love that. Okay, so lots of wins here, right? We can really look back and say, wow, well, I learned this. I learned this new skill, or I was able to find these things that actually I want to celebrate, accomplishments, things that you worked really hard at. I would say that our community is one of the strongest communities since we've started. Our community is stronger than it's ever been. I actually also, one of our big accomplishments of the year as Calm the Chaos is how many stories of transformation. I mean, I know Joe is here in the comments and many others like Amanda Warren, who used to hide in her pantry because she was so stressed out. And now she's in the comments here saying like, my family was able to focus on building a family business. Like, how amazing is that? Teresa Martinez, Jennifer Beanie saying that 2020 was their best year ever. Just being a part of that, just being a part of their journey has been such a huge win and such a huge accomplishment for us. Myself as a person, I have learned how to become a leader. I have learned how to as a business owner, how to know my numbers, how to know where we're at and where we're going, and how to make decisions and be decisive. And that was something that I really struggled with in the past. I self-doubted myself quite a bit. So I've learned how to get really decisive and say, yep, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. And be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I want to move to the last stage, because I think this is huge. So what I want you to do finally is to look at opportunities. So what opportunities did you have? So here we came up with all kinds of new ideas. We created more products this year than we ever have. We have an amazing community with over 2,000 families. Right? And I had that confidence and that connection, right? So lots of wins. So when I look back on 2020, though, I want to look at opportunities for growth moving forward. So this isn't about setting New Year's resolutions. This is about saying, okay, we figured out how to work at home. We figured out how to do e-learning. We figured out how to deal with the unknown. Now, how do we make plans for a year when we have no idea what's going to happen? And it's all about not saying, like, okay, I want this tangible thing yet. Right now, it's just about looking at 2020 and saying, you know what? We're home a lot. So, an opportunity for growth might be like increased actual family game nights. Maybe I would really like to use our time a little bit more. Maybe I'd really like to focus on myself more. Maybe I'd like to focus on my health more. Maybe that's an opportunity for growth. Maybe getting really creative with your adventures, maybe going on a car trip, or finding outdoor adventures that you can go on with your kids that don't involve other humans, right? So, what are your opportunities, especially if you scored the year 2020, if you scored 2020 as a 1, well, that means that you have got lots of opportunities. It meant that you probably had a lot of heartache and a lot of hard things happening, but it also means you have a lot of opportunities. So if you can just post in the comment, what are some opportunities that you see for yourself, for your family, for your dreams moving forward into the new year? So, what are some opportunities you see? I've already discussed a couple of mine, and I'd love to hear yours as well as examples, because I know that people really work well on examples. So, go ahead and share those in the comments, and I'll read some of those out loud. Your opportunities for growth. All right. Let's see here. And I know that some of you guys are watching over on the page, so I was just looking to see if there was any comments there. All right. So, more creativity. I love that. I love that. I love that. So actually looking at maybe some ways to be more creative with the family. I love that. And what are the good parts, Anne? Like, what are some of the things that really, really worked for you in 2020 that you're saying, I want to carry forward some of the great things that happened in 2020 into 2021, things that we were forced to learn how to do. I love that. So build your business. Yeah. Working out. Yeah. Doing yoga. So doing some exercises and focusing on ourselves. Absolutely. What a great opportunity for growth. Less screen time. Yeah. So now that we've kind of and here's the thing, I don't want you to feel guilty if you do have screen time right now, right? Because we're all navigating this. So now looking at how do we connect without the screens? How do we really focus on that connection time? Oh, accommodating your kids' YouTube passion. Re-engage your health routine. I love this so much, so much. Like drinking more water, focusing on yourself. I know some of our students like to say really focusing on that spark plan which is that morning routine that they love. Awesome. Well, what I want to do is I would love to see these. So I'd love to see how 2020 went for you. What were expectations that you're letting go of? What are some wins that you want to celebrate, like your top 5 wins? And then what is your top 3 opportunities? So focus on, you can brain dump them all and then focus on, your top three, top three, top three. I think that's going to be best. I would love to see these. You can email them into us. You can message us. You can post them on our Facebook page, but I'd love to see where you're headed for 2021. And I love that. Anne says, thanks to CTC, I'm not worried about 2021 because I know we can handle whatever comes our way. Oh, Anne, that is so beautiful. Oh my goodness. I love that so, so much. Okay. So here's the thing, guys. We know that heading into a new year when there's so much unknown can feel really rocky. We know that finishing off this year can feel really iffy and not really fun. And so what we want to do is we want to do a 5-day series. It's going to start tomorrow, and we don't have set times for me going live, but I am promising you for the next 5 days that I'm going to go live every single day. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share with you 5 important topics that we've seen. We have over 300,000 people on our email list. And we asked, what are the biggest struggles you're having right now as you close out 2020 and go into 2021? And so we've looked at those topics, and what we want to do is we want to focus on those topics for the next 5 days. So I'm going to walk you through real fast what we're going to talk about for the next 5 days. So let's go ahead and I'll bring this back, my bad boy up here again. All right. So it should get clear here. Here we go. All right. So let's look at, we're going to be doing our Finish Strong series. We're going to start tomorrow, and we're going to be doing it right here on our Facebook page. And if you're on our email list, we'll be sending you an email every day letting you know when we are live, because we don't have those times set yet, but we will be going live. So I want to go over the 5 main struggles that we want to go over and help you with. So the very first one that we want to really help you with is getting your kids to listen, follow directions, help around the house, right? Dealing with screen time battles. So we're really going to be talking about discipline and listening. Like, how do you discipline in 2021? So a lot of people say that there is no guide or roadmap for parenting during a pandemic, but as you can see in the comments here where we have our CTC alumni, they're like, thanks to CTC, I know exactly what I'm doing for discipline. But for those of you who are not in our world yet, who have not been part of our Calm the Chaos program, or who have not joined our huddle, which is our membership, then we want to help you know how to navigate disciplining during a pandemic. Now, the next thing that we know a lot of you are struggling with is dealing with the big emotions and increase in meltdowns and in aggression and hitting. And so we're going to be talking about big emotions, why they are probably at an all-time high in your family right now. And we're going to be talking about aggression and what you can do about that. So that's day 2. We're going to be talking about that. And then from there, on day 3, we are going to be talking about you. So what I mean by that is we know that right now, with all the changes and the transitions and with everything going on in the world and all of the things that have been happening for the last, 9 months and going into a new year, we know that you're fatigued, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed. You're dealing with a lot of your own head chaos. You're dealing with a lot of overwhelm and you're dealing with, it looks mad. They're supposed to be sad. So you're dealing with a lot of your own exhaustion and overwhelm. So we're going to be talking about why that might be happening and what you can do about that to finish strong. Now, if you're on our email list or you are here on the Facebook page, you're just going to want to make sure that you're following along so that you get the notifications. So you can sign up for our email list if you're not already, or you can just like make sure it says like follow or notify. You want to make sure all those things are set so that you get the notifications of each of the days that we're going live. The next thing is we know that right now, because especially heading into the winter, that many of you guys are dealing with kids that just have too big behaviors. Like I'm talking about like kids that are jumping on the furniture, kids that are constantly moving. They're just, it's kind of like that wild and crazy behavior. So we're going to be talking about why your kids are too much, why your kids are too active or too sensitive, or any of those sorts of things where you're just like want to pull your hair out and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this kiddo, especially as we go into a long winter, right? Like they are predicting that the months we're headed into might be a little bit harder than March, or some people are predicting it might be even a lot harder than March. So we want to prepare you. We want to help you go into 2021 strong. So what we're going to do finally is on the last day, we are going to share with you how to prepare for 2021. And we're going to do that by helping you prepare for the holidays. We're going to help you prepare for more shutdowns, right? And having to work from home, having to deal with e-learning again. And then finally, what we want to share with you is we want to share with you how to be prepared for or know what to do and be suited up for just needing a break, right? Like your own sanity. So how do you get your sanity? How do you get a break when you don't have support, when you can't leave the house, when you can't get a babysitter, when grandma and grandpa can't help out? What do you do when you need 5 minutes alone? What do you do when you need to work and your kids are constantly asking for your attention? So we are going to be talking about how to provide you with a little bit of sanity so you're not constantly touched out, right? We're going to give you a little break of time. So we're going to be talking about that on day 5, which will be next Wednesday. And all of this is gearing up. We have put together an epic Black Friday bundle that covers all of these things. It's going to cover disciplining in a pandemic, big emotions and aggression, overwhelm and exhaustion for yourself, dealing with too much or overactive behaviors, and how to get through the holidays, how to get through the school closings and the working from home, and how to deal with constantly being touched out and your own sanity. So we're going to be walking you through lessons over the next trainings over the next 5 days, starting tomorrow. Like I said, no time frame on that. Just follow along on the page, follow along on our email. You'll be getting an email every single day. And I cannot wait to share that with you. So if you are going to be following along, you want to hear our biggest tips, our top lessons we learned this year during 2020 about disciplining in a pandemic, about dealing with big emotions and aggression, about dealing with your own overwhelm and exhaustion, and about dealing with cooped up too much behaviors. If you want to hear our top lessons from 2020 so that you can finish 2020 strong and you can go into 2021 strong and confident, just let me know in the comments. Say, I'm in. And I cannot wait to share with you. I'm really excited. And if you know someone who could use this, who maybe they haven't been in our world, maybe they haven't seen any of this hope or any of this opportunity for growing their connection, building their relationship with their kids, feeling more sane and feeling more energized so that they can finish 2021 strong and go into 2020 strong and go into 2021 with everything they need then be sure to let them know about this free series that is starting tomorrow as well. So, all right, if you want to make sure you're on the email list, go ahead. Christina, I believe you are, because I believe you're also. So go ahead and email help@calmthechaosframework.com. And they can help you, Christina. Casey is in. Megan is in. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys, I will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to talk about the top lessons we've learned about disciplining in a pandemic and what you need to know so that you can help your kids listen, follow directions, and you can end all of those chaotic battles with your kids so that you can deepen that relationship.